Hi everyone, this is going to be a video about me showing some applets I made in Geogebra. By default, there are a lot of things that are not built into it that I was expecting but just weren't, and so I actually went online and I searched for existing applets and I couldn't find what I was looking for exactly. However, I did find some things that were quite related along the lines of what I wanted to do, and that is to put arrows on functions when you graph in this software. Basically, these files that I made are a combination of all of the good features that exist in some form or another in existing applets that are already on the web. However, there are some exceptions. For example, I have gone out of my way to program an infinite number of asymptotes on a function like, let's say, tangent of x. And I have also programmed an infinite number of holes and closed dots on like the greatest integer function, for example. So first of all, let me just hide that, and I drag this here. Let me right click on the screen, show the grid. Let me say I want to graph like y equals x squared. When I graph y equals x squared in Geogebra, there are no arrows on the graph. Like when you graph a function normally on paper, you have to draw arrows to show that the graph continues forever. But there is no option to graph arrows on functions in Geogebra by default. You'll have to hard code that in yourself. If I want to change the x-axis to multiples of pi, I can do that. If I just, let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see this, and let me graph like sine of x. So I zoom out a little bit just to make the y-axis in multiples of 1. What I can do to do that is right click anywhere on the screen and then click graphics. Once I do that, then I click this triangle with a circle. It's kind of small, can't really see it. And if everything is small and you want to make things bigger, if you don't know, you just go to options and font size. Let me just make it 24 font. It makes everything bigger and nicer to see. So now I right click, I go to graphics. Now you can see that better. There's a triangle with a circle on it. We want to adjust the x-axis. We want to make the distance in multiples of pi over 2. We only have two options here. We have pi and pi over 2. So that works out nicely for that, but it doesn't really look like a fraction form like the latex did. That's one thing. So if you want it to be a vertical fraction, you're out of luck by default. But let's say instead of sine of x, let's say you want to graph tangent of x. So if I just change this to tangent of x, maybe I want to say what's happening at pi over 4. Is it equal to 1 at pi over 4, for example? Well, if I right click anywhere on the screen, go to graphics again and click the x-axis. If I change this to pi over 4, I want to show increments of pi over 4. Oh, it shows decimals. But I have made trigonometric applets which not only incorporate this feature, which allows you to see axis multiples other than pi and pi over 2. I have it set all the way to multiples of pi over 12. I don't think you'll ever need that, but I have that. The code that I have for that wasn't my own originally. I'll provide a link for that in the video description. And speaking of which, I could not find where I got the Geogebra file in which I got the idea for arrows from. So I do not take credit for the code for the arrows. But I do say that I combined several of these nice features all in one for every single one of the functions. What I'm going to do now is start with the family of functions.